This Pride Month, we celebrate the triumphs of the LGBTQ community and also recognize its struggles. And we're joined tonight by Dr. Paula Williams, a transgender pastor and counselor at the Left Hand Church and the former CEO and editor of the church planting organization, the Orchard Group. Her new book, As a Woman, What I Learned About Power, Sex, and the Patriarchy After I Transitioned. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Dr. Williams.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be with you.
And you write, quote, "The heart yearns to be free, but it will never be free until you let go of the world to which you no longer belong." Explain what you mean by that.
I think there is a tendency to try to hang on to safety instead of accepting that we've all been called onto the hero's journey. And it always means a trip onto the road of trials, and no one willingly goes onto the road of trials. But when you realize it is the path you need to take, you finally say, yes, I'm willing to go that direction. And I think that's when we let go. Most of us want to not let go of one hand until we're already holding onto the one in front of us. And the truth is you have to let go of one before you find the other.
And you write about what you learned while becoming a woman that you never realized as a man. For example, you say that you started second-guessing your instincts and that women are taught to be perfect, not confident. Tell us more about what else surprised you about womanhood.
You know, one of the things that surprised me is how much women do not empower one another. Men do tend to empower one another, I think. They come into a room, they look to see who the alpha is in the room, they rank themselves accordingly, and then they set about accomplishing the purposes of the alpha. Or to use a sports analogy, they get in a huddle, slap each other, and then they advance the quarterback and the ball down the field. Too often, I think women see each other as competition, and I get it because only 5.8% of Fortune 500 CEOs are women, 6.6% of Silicon Valley CEOs. Women earn 79 cents in the dollar on average of what men earn. So I understand that sense of scarcity, but I'd love to see women empowering each other more.
That football analogy is a really interesting one. In your TED Talk with your son, Jonathan, you say that it's hard to believe in God when your soul is in the wrong body. Growing up in the evangelical church and struggling with your gender identity, how was your faith impacted by your gender transition?
I think for me, it has become vibrant and alive in ways it never was before. I think the primary purpose of faith in our civilization, or really in our species, is to try to seek out the meaning of life together. I mean, we came together in spiritual communities years ago because we were searching for meaning. And I think it's so much easier to do that when you're in the body that feels right to you.
You're now the pastor of the Left Hand Church in Colorado, but a few years ago you were fired as CEO of the church planting organization, the Orchard Group, after you came out as a transgender woman. What does your new role mean to you, and what are your goals as pastor and member of the LGBTQ community?
I think one of the things we want to do is support particularly LGBTQ youth, because this is a difficult time for them. And I think we want to support the entire community's desire to come together instead of the kind of polarization we're seeing develop in the United States right now.
What's your advice for people who might be struggling with their gender identity or gender transition, and especially as it relates to the existence of God?
You know, I think people need to understand that who they are is, in fact, who they are. And if there is a God, that particular God is definitely supportive of the fact that they are who they are. I believe the call toward authenticity is sacred and holy and for the greater good. So I think it's important for us to answer that call to who we are, even if it means there's going to be a lot of loss. And for me, there was a lot of loss.
And yet you're able to still say that with a smile. On the flip side, do you have advice for family or friends of people who are grappling with gender identity, who perhaps don't quite understand someone else's truth, who would also turn to God to say, well, God put you in the body you were meant to be in?
Well, I think if that's the case, then God made a lot of mistakes in the world, because there are a lot of people whose bodies are not particularly helpful to them. So I think that is, in fact, a particular fundamentalist perspective on God. I believe that, in fact, one of the best things we can do is to just listen to our family members who might be dealing with gender dysphoria, which is what they call being transgender, or with being gender non-binary. Listen and ask. It's all right to make mistakes. It's all right to use the wrong pronouns. It's all right to get it wrong. We're only 0.58% of the population. Not that many people know one of us. And most of us are pretty generous, particularly those of us who've had a life of privilege before we transition. I think those of us who were powerful white males feel a special responsibility to be willing to be out there in the public and telling our stories.
Dr. Paula Stone Williams, we thank you so much for your time tonight. As a woman, what I learned about power, sex, and the patriarchy after I transitioned is available wherever books are sold.
Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.